The slap came out of nowhere. 1 second, Kendra Graves was reaching for organic strawberries, her hand resting protectively on her 6-month belly. The next, her head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheek. "You think you can just replace me?" Anita Wells screamed, her face twisted with rage. "You think you can take everything that was mine?" Kendra stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face, her other arm wrapping around her stomach. People were staring. Phone cameras were rising. "Anita, stop!" Kendra started. But Anita grabbed her wrist, her nails digging into skin. "Do you have any idea who I am? What I can do to you?" Kendra looked at her, this woman she'd only seen in photographs. This ghost from her husband's past who'd made his life hell for 3 years before their divorce. And she almost laughed. Because Anita Wells had no idea who Kendra Graves really was. She had no idea that the quiet little wife she was attacking in the middle of an upscale D.C. supermarket was the CEO of the company that had been systematically dismantling her ex-husband's empire for the past 18 months. She had no idea that Kendra held the power to destroy everything Donovan Graves had built. And she definitely had no idea that the attack she just committed on camera, in public, against a pregnant woman was about to cost her everything. "Let go of me," Kendra said quietly. "Or what?" Anita sneered, tightening her grip. "You'll call your husband? You'll run crying to Donovan?" Kendra looked directly into her eyes. "No," she said. "I'll call my lawyers." Something in her voice made Anita pause. "Who the hell do you think you are?" she hissed. Kendra pulled her arm free. "Someone you should have been a lot more careful around. You just watched a pregnant woman get attacked in a grocery store. But what you don't know yet is that this isn't a story about a victim. This is a story about a woman who's been playing the longest game of chess and she's about to flip the entire board. You don't know why she's been hiding. You don't know what she's been building in secret. And you don't know what happens when the person everyone underestimates finally reveals who they really are. If you need to understand how a single moment can unravel years of carefully kept secrets, if you want to see what happens when the quiet wife turns out to be the most dangerous person in the room, then stay with me, because this story is about to get very interesting. Hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to see how this ends. Now let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment Kendra Graves became someone else. Kendra Graves has been lying to her husband for 2 years. Not about the small things. Not about where she goes or who she sees or how she spends her time. She's been lying about who she is. To the world, to Donovan, to his family, to his friends, she's just Kendra, the soft-spoken woman he met at a charity gala 2.5 years ago. The one who seemed so different from his explosive, dramatic ex-wife Anita. The one who didn't care about his money or his status or his powerful connections. The one who was just happy to be with him. That part wasn't a lie. She does love him, more than she ever thought possible. But everything else? That was carefully constructed, deliberately planned. Because her real name isn't just Kendra Graves. It's Kendra Graves, CEO of Meridian Industries, the company that's been quietly acquiring Donovan's competitors, poaching his top talent, and undercutting his biggest contracts for the past 18 months. The company that's been systematically dismantling Graves' enterprises piece by piece. And Donovan has no idea. She never planned to fall in love with him. That was the one variable she didn't account for. When she first approached him at that charity gala, it was strategic, calculated. She needed to understand her competition, and what better way than to get close to the man himself. But then she actually got to know him. Not Donovan Graves, the billionaire, not the ruthless CEO who'd crushed a dozen companies on his way to the top. She got to know Donovan. The man who couldn't cook to save his life but insisted on trying every Sunday. The man who called his mother every week. The man who'd been burned so badly by Anita that he'd stopped believing anyone could actually love him for who he was. So Kendra made a choice. She kept her secret, but she gave him her heart. For 2 years, she's lived 2 lives. By day, she's Kendra, the pregnant wife who volunteers at children's hospitals, who attends charity lunches, who smiles politely at Donovan's business dinners and pretends not to understand the technical discussions. By night, well, early morning really, she's the CEO who runs a billion-dollar empire from a private office Donovan doesn't know exists. She takes calls at 3 a.m., when he's asleep. She reviews contracts while he's at the gym. She makes deals that directly compete with his while sitting across from him at breakfast. It's exhausting, it's complicated, and it's about to completely fall apart. Because she's 6 months pregnant with his child, Meridian just secured the Carter Technologies contract that Donovan's been pursuing for 8 months, and his ex-wife Anita just physically attacked her in the middle of Dawson and Gray Market, the same upscale grocery store where half of D.C. elite shop, the same place where everything is seen and everyone talks. She didn't plan for this, any of it. She'd been so careful, so meticulous about keeping her two worlds separate. But life doesn't care about your plans. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Kendra had a rare few hours off, no board meetings, no contract reviews, no crisis management calls. Just her growing belly, and a craving for fresh strawberries that wouldn't quit. Donovan was at his office, dealing with the fallout from losing the Carter contract. She'd felt guilty about that one. But business is business, and she'd made Meridian a promise long before she made Donovan a vow. She'd promised herself she'd build something that couldn't be destroyed by men like him. Ironic, isn't it? She grabbed a basket and headed to the produce section. Her mind half on the grocery list and half on the board meeting she had scheduled for tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. That's when she saw her. Anita Wells. Kendra recognized her immediately from the photos Donovan kept locked in a drawer he thought she didn't know about. The wedding photos he couldn't quite bring himself to throw away, even though Anita had put him through hell. She was beautiful, Kendra had to admit. Tall, model thin, with long dark hair and the kind of bone structure that photographs well. She was also scanning the wine section with the focused intensity of someone on a mission. Kendra should have left, should have abandoned her strawberries and walked straight out. But she was tired of hiding, tired of running, tired of being afraid of shadows from Donovan's past. So she stayed. She moved through the produce section, selecting strawberries, checking avocados, pretending she didn't notice Anita. But Anita noticed her. Kendra felt her eyes before she heard her voice. "Excuse me," Anita said, her tone dripping with false politeness. "Don't I know you?" Kendra turned, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. "I don't think so." Anita's eyes tracked the movement. Narrowed on the wedding ring. "That's a beautiful ring," she said slowly. "Custom designed?" "Yes," Kendra said carefully. "Interesting." Anita stepped closer. "Because I used to have one just like it, before my husband divorced me and gave it to his new wife." Kendra's blood ran cold. The air between them turned electric. Anita's eyes were locked on Kendra's ring, the same ring Donovan had nervously presented 6 months into their relationship, explaining that he'd had it redesigned, that he wanted their life together to be completely new, nothing recycled from his past. Kendra had believed him, mostly. "You're Donovan's new wife," Anita said, and it wasn't a question. "I am," Kendra replied, keeping her voice steady. Anita laughed, actually laughed. "Of course you are. Let me guess you met at some charity event?" He played the wounded billionaire, told you about his terrible ex-wife who didn't understand him. "Something like that," Kendra said coldly. "And you fell for it." Anita shook her head, looking her up and down with undisguised contempt. "You actually believed you were special, that you were different." Kendra should have walked away. Should have been the bigger person. But pregnancy hormones and 2 years of hiding who she really was made her reckless. "I am different," she said. "I'm not you." Anita's face went red. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." Kendra met her glare without flinching. "I know what you did to him. The affairs. The constant drama. The way you drained his accounts and then played victim when he finally had enough." "You don't know anything," Anita spat. "I know enough." Kendra turned back to her shopping. "Now if you'll excuse me." Anita grabbed her arm. Hard. "Don't you dare turn your back on me," she hissed. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what I can do?" Kendra looked at Anita's hand on her arm, then back at her face. "Let go." "Or what?" Anita tightened her grip. "You'll tell Donovan? You think he'll choose you over me? I was his first love, his first everything. You're just a placeholder until he gets bored." People were starting to stare now. A woman with a shopping cart had stopped pretending to examine apples. A store employee was watching nervously from the cheese section. "I'm his wife," Kendra said quietly. "And I'm carrying his child, so yes, I'm fairly confident about where I stand. That's when Anita snapped. You think a baby makes you special? Her voice rose, echoing through the store. You think that's going to keep him? I could have given him children. I chose not to because I had a career, because I had ambitions beyond being some rich man's incubator. Then you made your choice, Kendra said. Now live with it and let me go. No, Anita's nails dug into her skin. No, you need to understand something. Everything you have, it was mine first. That ring, that house, that man. You're living my life. I'm living my life, Kendra corrected. You threw yours away. Anita's other hand came up fast. The slap echoed through the produce section. Kendra's head snapped to the side, pain blooming across her cheek. She stumbled backward, one hand flying to her face, the other wrapping protectively around her belly. Gasps rippled through the store. Someone shouted. The distinct sound of phone cameras clicked. You think you can just replace me? Anita screamed, completely unhinged now. You think you can take everything that was mine and I'll just disappear? Kendra touched her cheek. It was hot, probably already turning red. And something inside her, the part that had been playing nice, playing weak, playing the role of the quiet wife, finally broke free. She looked at Anita Wells, and she smiled. Not a nice smile, a dangerous one. You just made a very big mistake, she said softly. Anita laughed, wild and mocking. What are you going to do? Sue me? With what money? Donovan's? Good luck. I know every trick in his legal playbook. I don't need his money, Kendra said. I have my own. Right. Anita rolled her eyes. What do? Yoga instructor? Pinterest influencer? Let me guess you sell essential oils on Instagram. The condescension in her voice was the final straw. Kendra pulled out her phone. What are you doing? Anita demanded. Calling my lawyers, Kendra said calmly, already dialing. Your lawyers? Anita laughed again. Honey, I don't think your personal injury attorney is going to— Not those lawyers, Kendra interrupted. My corporate legal team. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Miss Graves, a crisp, professional voice answered. We weren't expecting your call until the morning briefing. Kendra watched Anita's face as recognition slowly dawned. Graves, not her married name, her maiden name. The name on the business license for Meridian Industries. Change of plans, Richard, Kendra said, still looking directly at Anita. I need you to file assault charges. I was just physically attacked in a public place. I want criminal charges and a civil suit. Full documentation. Anita's face had gone pale. Miss Graves, are you all right? Richard's voice was concerned now. Should I send security? I'm fine, but I want this handled immediately. And Richard? Make sure it's public. Very public. Understood. I'll have the paperwork filed within the hour. Kendra hung up. The silence that followed was deafening. Anita was staring at her like she'd never seen her before. Graves, she whispered. You said, but that's Donovan's name. It's also mine, Kendra said. Has been since birth, actually. Kendra Graves, granddaughter of Thomas Graves, founder of Graves International Holdings. Daughter of Victoria Graves Chen, current CEO of Graves International, and as of 2 years ago, CEO of Meridian Industries. Kendra watched the color drain from Anita's face completely. You're that Graves? Anita stammered. Yes, Kendra said simply. The company that just took the Carter Technologies contract from Donovan? That's mine. The company that's been acquiring his competitors for 18 months? Mine. The woman you just assaulted on camera in front of 24 witnesses? She smiled. Also mine. You know, there's something powerful about the moment when you stop pretending. When you stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's expectations. When you finally say, this is who I am, and I'm done apologizing for it. Kendra spent 2 years hiding her power because she thought that's what love required, because she believed she had to choose between being herself and being loved. And maybe you've felt that way too. Maybe you've hidden parts of yourself, your ambition, your intelligence, your strength, because you thought being too much would make you unwanted. But here's what Kendra learned, standing in that grocery store with a red handprint on her face. The people who try to diminish you, they're terrified of your power. They see what you're capable of, and it scares them. So they try to make you small. If this story is reminding you of your own strength, the parts of yourself you've been hiding, maybe it's worth holding on to. Maybe it matters. Subscribe if you believe your power is something to celebrate, not something to apologize for. Anita backed up a step, then another. "You're lying," she said, but her voice shook. "Donovan would have told me, would have known." "Donovan doesn't know," Kendra said calmly. "No one does. I've kept my business life and my personal life completely separate. Used my maiden name professionally. Different offices, different circles." "Why?" Anita whispered. "Because I learned a long time ago that men like Donovan, brilliant, powerful, competitive men, they don't know how to be partners with equals. They need to feel like the provider, the protector, the one in control." Kendra touched her belly gently. "I loved him enough to let him have that. To let him think he was taking care of me while I was building an empire he didn't even know existed." "He'll leave you when he finds out," Anita said desperately. "He'll be furious that you lied." "Maybe," Kendra acknowledged. "But that's between me and my husband." "You? You just assaulted a pregnant woman in public." "A pregnant woman who happens to have more money, more lawyers, and more power than you've ever imagined." Store security was approaching now, flanked by the manager. "Ma'am," the security guard said to Kendra, "are you all right? We saw what happened. The police are on their way." "I'm fine," she said, "but I want her arrested." Anita's eyes went wide. "You can't." "I can," Kendra said, "and I will." The police arrived within minutes. Kendra gave her statement, calm and clear. Multiple witnesses corroborated. The phone videos showed everything. Anita was arrested for assault. As they led her away in handcuffs, she looked back at Kendra one last time. "Donovan will never forgive you for this," she said. "Probably not," Kendra agreed. "But I'll survive. I always do." Kendra stood there in that parking lot watching the police car drive away, and she felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Relief. Not because Anita was arrested, not because she'd won some confrontation, but because she'd finally stopped hiding. For 2 years, she'd carried the weight of this secret. She'd compartmentalized her life so carefully that she was 2 different people, the wife and the CEO, and neither one felt whole. And maybe you know what that feels like, living a divided life, showing different parts of yourself to different people, never quite feeling like anyone sees the real you. It's exhausting, isn't it? Pretending to be less so others feel like more. Hiding your success so you don't threaten anyone. Keeping your victories quiet so you don't seem like you're bragging. But what if you stopped? What if you let people see all of you? The brilliant, ambitious, powerful parts, and trusted that the right people would love you more for it, not less. If this story is making you think about the parts of yourself you've been hiding, subscribe, because maybe it's time to stop living in pieces and start living whole. Kendra's phone rang before she even made it to her car. Donovan. She stared at his name on the screen, her heart pounding. Someone had already told him. Of course they had. This was Washington, D.C. News, traveled faster than light. She answered. "Kendra," his voice was strained. "Are you okay? I just heard Anita attacked you. Are you hurt? Is the baby?" "We're fine," she said quickly. "Both fine. It was just a slap. I'm okay. I'm coming to get you. Where are you?" "Still at the store." "But Donovan, there's something I need to tell you. It can wait. I'm 10 minutes away. Don't move." He hung up. Kendra stood in the parking lot, one hand on her belly, the other clutching her phone. This was it. The moment everything changed. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. When his black Mercedes pulled up, he was out of the car before it even fully stopped. "Kendra." He pulled her into his arms, careful of her stomach, his hands shaking as he cupped her face, examining the red mark Anita had left. "God, I'm so sorry. I never thought I should have warned you." "Donovan," she said gently, "we need to talk." He pulled back, searching her face. "About what?" She took a deep breath. "About who I really am." Donovan didn't speak in the car. He drove them home in silence, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Kendra could see the wheels turning in his mind, trying to piece together what she meant. When they got to the penthouse, the one he'd bought after the divorce, the one he thought he was providing for her, she sat him down on the couch and told him everything. About Meridian Industries, about her family legacy, About the contracts she'd won, the deals she'd made, the empire she'd built while he slept beside her. About the 18 months she'd spent competing with him while pretending to be the supportive wife who didn't understand business. She watched his face as she spoke. Watched shock turn to confusion, confusion to betrayal, betrayal to something she couldn't quite read. When she finished, the silence stretched between them like a chasm. "Say something," she whispered. "You lied to me," he said finally. "For 2 years. About everything." "Not everything," she protested. "I love you. That was never a lie. The baby, our life together, that's real." "Is it?" He stood up, pacing. "How do I know any of it's real? How do I know you didn't get close to me for corporate espionage?" "Because I never used anything you told me," she said. "Every deal I won fair and square. Check the timelines, check the contracts. I never betrayed your business secrets." "Just my trust," he said bitterly. Tears burned her eyes. "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to be both things at once." "Both things?" "Your wife and your equal," she said. "Your wife and your competitor. The woman you love and the CEO who can match you strategy for strategy." He stopped pacing, looking at her with something like wonder. "The Carter contract," he said slowly. "That was you." She nodded. "The Meridian acquisition of Jensen Tech. The hostile takeover of Brightstar Industries. All me," she admitted. He ran his hand through his hair, and then unexpectedly he laughed. "God," he said. "I've been going crazy trying to figure out who was behind Meridian. And it was you, the whole time." "I'm sorry," she said again. "Sorry?" He looked at her. "Kendra, do you have any idea how brilliant that is? You outmaneuvered me at every turn and I never saw you coming." She blinked. "You're not angry?" "Oh, I'm furious," he said. "But I'm also incredibly impressed." Despite everything, she laughed. He sat back down beside her and took her hand. "I wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me," he said quietly. "But I understand why you didn't. I've been that guy, the one whose ego can't handle an equal." He squeezed her hand. "But maybe having a wife who's been crushing my business empire is exactly the wake-up call I needed." Here's what Kendra and Donovan's story teaches us. The people who truly love you don't need you to be smaller. They don't need you to hide your power or dim your light or pretend to be less than you are. The right person sees all of you, the ambitious, brilliant, complicated, powerful parts, and loves you more for it, not less. Kendra spent 2 years afraid that Donovan couldn't handle the real her, that if he knew she was his competitor, his equal, he'd leave. But she was wrong. The version of her she was hiding, that's the version he fell in love with even more. And maybe that's true for you too. Maybe the parts of yourself you've been hiding, the strength, the intelligence, the ambition, the power, those aren't the parts that make you unlovable. Those are the parts that make you extraordinary. If this story reminded you that you don't have to shrink to be loved, that your power is something to celebrate, subscribe. Because the world needs more people who refuse to play small, and maybe you're one of them. 3 months later, Kendra gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Victoria, after her mother. Donovan held her in the hospital room, tears streaming down his face, and whispered, "She's going to run the world someday." "Both our companies combined," Kendra agreed. "God help the business world," he said, and they both laughed. Anita's assault charges stuck. She was convicted, sentenced to community service and probation, and ordered to stay away from both of them permanently. The publicity from the case, pregnant CEO attacked by Billionaire'S bitter ex-wife, actually boosted Meridian's profile. 3 major investors reached out within a week. Donovan and Kendra decided to keep their companies separate, but started a joint venture, a foundation supporting women entrepreneurs in tech. Their daughter is 2 now. She already shows signs of both their personalities, stubborn as hell and scary smart. They still compete. Meridian and Graves enterprises go head-to-head on contracts regularly. Sometimes she wins, sometimes he wins. But at the end of the day, they both come home to the same place. To each other, to their daughter, to a life built on truth instead of secrets. This is the story of Kendra Graves, a wife, a mother, and the CEO of a billion-dollar company that started from nothing. She's all of those things, not in spite of each other, but because of each other. And she's done apologizing for taking up space. Maybe you should be too.